Hi guys. Hail and merry meet to everybody. This very overcast Friday. Today we're going to try some experiments. And we're going to talk about some of the techniques that are used by different people in different videos and explain how you can do some of them in your own studio. Some of the techniques that we see used especially in dreamlike sequences can easily be emulated in analog cinematography using a piece of white gauze or very fine gauze over the lens. Sometimes to create smearing of light, you can use a little bit of oil or like even finger grease on the lens, which will create the streaking effect. I don't have any gauze on hand right now, or muslin that's very fine. Muslin, I can show you that technique, but with the gauze over the lens, but I think you can visualize how it would work. Actually, I do. The problem is it's not really white. It's actually my chroma key green screen protector. But I'm going to show you anyway, because this is all I got. So I'll take a look at this anyway, although the look might look a little bit bizarre. If I can find it here. No, I don't know where it is. Right, it's a second. I thought it was up here, but yeah, it is. Okay, it's on another piece of material over here. Now, to understand, normally you would use white for this. I don't have white. But to understand what it is clearly, if I hold this up, you can see it's kind of translucent. If I hold this over the lens, you can see, if it was having bigger holes, you can see that the material has a way of actually changing the scene. You can't even see my hand right now, but my hand is there. And unfortunately my cats are already making trouble. So what I'll do is, to get a better look at this, I'll have to go get a pair of nylons next week at the CVS, a pair of white nylons or knee highs to show you the effect. But you can kind of see what it does. Now, we all talk about how modern technology has made it possible to do a lot of fantastic image results. Back in the old days, before digital processing was a reality, cinematographers would use a variety of techniques, as I said. Like sometimes a little bit of grease on the lens of the camera to create smearing effect. That's an effect I've created quite accidentally many times in my video when my camera got greasy fingerprints on my iPhone. Well, it's easy to do. One of the techniques that I wanted to try was I was going to try to go for the whole package. The dark room, I could certainly do that. Before we do that, I wanted to just explain that what I'm going to be doing is an experiment and should not be taken as anything more than that. Not that I disagree with what I'm going to be saying, but again, as I said, please keep in mind that this is an experiment, and it's pretty much my version of what Poppy does, just because of two reasons. Number one, I don't want to duplicate Poppy exactly. She has her own particular brand that I don't want to infringe upon. Okay? And the second reason is some of her messages don't necessarily jive with me. So let's see if we can try to get an effect. And yeah, I'm not going to try to be doing too much of video editing in the sense of video effects. Although I can certainly add those two using Final Cut Express. But I'd rather see if I can do this almost entirely in the camera first. Now, since I don't have a lot of fancy stuff, and don't ask me to try to smear Vaseline onto a tiny little C-mount lens. It would look, if I had a clear neutral density filter, or a UV filter, it might look okay to smear some petroleum jelly on that, but I don't have any bright lights behind me to do that look. So let's see how this goes. Oh, by the way, for those you wanted to know, before we get started, I have 3 cats in this room right now. All 3 boy cats get along with each other, which means I don't have to worry about them getting into a kite fight. Right now, Dusty and Fame are looking at Rusty. So let's get started. Effect. My soul is my firmware. My firmware is in my brain. My body is a support system of that brain, of bone and blood and guts. My soul is my firmware. The firmware is my brain. Body is the support system of bone, blood, and guts. If my firmware is damaged, my brain is also. The soul can be upgraded and flash my brain as needed. My brain is an EEPROM. It stores the operating system of my soul. My soul is my firmware, the firmware of my brain. My body is my support system of blood, guts, and bone. I am Michelle, human, and bag of blood, guts, and bone. I am just an organism, a container, or earth for my soul. When I sleep at night, my soul refreshes my brain every night with new ideas and inspiration. And I must tell you, sometimes it can be a real fright. What if I get a bad download? What if my soul heads into an error? What if the brain gets stuck in a loop and can't recover? Can I go back to the repair shop and get my firmware reflashed? Or does my brain end up in the pile with my brain considered trashed? My soul is my firmware of my brain. My body is a container, support system of blood, guts, and bone. I don't know how well that's going to come across. But the whole idea, what I'm trying to do is trying some ideas within my price range. Concepts. I did happen to find a copy of the YouTube series Poppy last night on Cody, of all things, and I watched it. And I realized that, of course, Poppy is a strange internet sensation that I cannot quite explain. But the people that have watched her performances, and I'm talking about both her musical performances as a musician and her performances on her YouTube channel, implies that she's trying to live a very simple life, very demure personality. She wants to appear innocent, but I don't really know if she's necessarily so innocent. But yes, Poppy. Let's talk about Michelle. Let's talk about me. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes doing inflections on my name. It bore you to tears. I say it every morning. I say, Hail and Merry Meet. This is MicheleMarieDalene. First of all, what does Hail and Merry Meet mean? First of all, it's not Hell and Merry Me. Although, the way I say it, it does sound like that. So let's take that apart slowly, shall we? Hail and Merry Meet. Well, if you study anything about Wicca, it is very common to greet another by saying, Merry Meet. That means joyful meeting you. It's a traditional greeting in Wicca. Hail means that I respect you. So when I say hail and merry meet, what I'm really saying is I respect and am very happy to meet you. Very different than the way some people think it means when I say hell and marry me, or even worse, hell and marry meat as in carne, or like flesh. If I was to say that, it would mean more like hell and marry flesh. Am I trying to eat you? No. It may sound like that. That's because the way I talk. Even when I didn't lose any teeth, I still sounded like that. Of course, I was a little more precise in my intonation, but not that much different. Someday, I'm going to fix these damn teeth of mine. Someday, I'm going to be able to finally put my life back together. Someday, I'll be able to buy a new wardrobe. Someday, I keep saying that. But just like Clean's Good Weather Revival says, someday never comes. Why? Why can't it come? Is it too much optimism? Is it too much? I don't know. It's a great question. What does it mean to always say someday? And it's like CCR says, someday never comes. I think of that. I really do. I think of that. I had a dream a couple days ago. I talked about that dream a couple videos ago. And I wanted to talk a little bit about me. The part of me you don't know. The part of me that's not public information. Listen up, TNCC. You like juicy bits? You can take these to the bank. They might interest you. Number one, I'm a middle child. I happen to have an older brother and a younger sister. My older brother is 3 years older than me. My younger sister is 4 years younger than me. We lived in many places in our life, all of them in Connecticut. Originally, we lived in East Hartland, Connecticut, from the year I was born until 1976. Then my father unable to afford to keep the house because this floor laying company called Northland Flooring, which is a competitor to Dalene Flooring, which is run by his brother, believe it or not, went up and went bankrupt. Why? Well, and it was 1973. We had the oil embargo. Fuel for trucks, for fleet of trucks, for floor laying, and all the service industries was getting really expensive. My father could not compete against his brother, Ernie. Ernie had the entire bids and contracts for the public school systems in Connecticut wrapped up in his hot little paws. His brother was older than him. They were still very close, even when they were competing for the same bids. That's the way family is sometimes. My father raised us as best as he could. He had a lot of hard times. My mother was a direct descendant from Norway, from Kristiansand. My mother, being a Norwegian ancestry, and hardcore, very, very, very hardcore Lutheran, absolutely insisted on an iron rod and an iron fist of everything in the house that had to go her way or you were in trouble. My father, to satisfy her constant desires, took on every responsibility he could because he loved her. They got married in 1965, actually 1964, the year before my brother was born. My father, my mother, did the best to raise 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. Between raising us all and trying to basically bust his tail for my mother, my poor father took up the evil sin of excessive drinking. My dad saw less of us and saw more of the bottom of a shot glass. My father was a very unhappy man because all of his dreams of fame and fortune and having the American dream were not coming to fruition. It was not his fault. It was not from his lack of trying. He just didn't have the ability to reach the next level. Who knows the real reason? But just like the song by John Fogerty says, I'm a living legacy to the leader of the band. I continue my father's legacy. I'm the next generation. The next generation of ne'er-do-wells. Some would say never did well. I digress. I will speak openly and with very strong firmness that I have done a lot of good things in my life. No matter what else has ever happened in the past, my father shared many wonderful truths with me, many wonderful facts and secrets that I still hold dear to my heart to this day, including information that doesn't make any sense to someone else. For example, the pitch of the bathroom roof. The pitch of the bathroom roof in the new edition is 17 3/4. Why is that important? My dad asked me to remember it. He never asked me to forget it. So I remember it to this day. The pitch of the bathroom roof. I also remember the fact is that I saw so many things in my life where so much good comes out of things. I saw my father works very diligently to overcome his alcohol dependence. I saw him work hard to try to become reacquainted with his family. I saw my father when he was sad and angry and happy. I saw my dad happily working in his little shop downstairs, making planters out of pieces of wood, scrap, from when he was working for Motivation Instrument. He would take the scraps of lumber home, and then he would cut them to pieces and glue them together. I remember the big, huge, homemade planter he made out of solid red wood. The thing was so heavy, you actually had to take it in 3 pieces to move it from one room to the next. It was a lamp. The upper lamp part I have not seen in many years, but I do remember that the bottom base was used as a planter, as was the middle piece. I have no idea where the lamp went. Clearly, it's somewhere. I remember how we worked painstakingly hard in River Run Apartments putting that together. Every day. Like a giant jigsaw puzzle. 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. He worked to put those pieces in painstakingly order. To make this huge thing. It was his way of working towards sobriety. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my father unfortunately passed away a few years ago. Complications of cancer. I still miss my dad a lot. I wonder when I'll see him again. I have so many questions to ask him. Questions that I never had a chance to. It's a long road ahead, and just like the other song goes, I'll be with you when my chores are through. Why do I say that? Why do I not just go ahead and terminate my existence? Because I am here on a mission. And sometimes I don't always understand why I stick through, but there's always something in me says, there's more out there, Michelle, than you can meet the eye. You are the next generation. You are my legacy. Don't let me down. Keep doing the best you can. Be creative. Be inventive. Be you. My father and my mother, as I said, moved from their home in East Hartland, Connecticut to River Run Apartments from 1976 to 1982. In 1983, my father and my mother got an apartment in a 2-family house in Hartford Center on Main Street. We lived above a family that owned a house, Gary Sexton and his wife Nancy. They had a son named Jeffrey. Me and Jeffrey did not necessarily get along quite that well. I used to have a place I used to hang out at the old derelict barn in the back. A room that was on my own. This quiet place is where I did things. Listening to records. To sometimes hanging out with others of my age group. At that time, I was in 7th grade. I had a lot of acquaintances, but I never really had any true friends. But at least I wasn't alone. The part of my past I remember growing up most of all was hanging out with a guy named Richard Vickers. Whatever happened to you, Richard? Where are you now? Whatever happened to Raymond Zietler? Whatever happened to all the people I used to know? It's just like that song by the Beatles. There are places I remember. Yes, there are places I remember. Some have changed and not for better. Some are gone, yet some still remain. At that time, I was as inert as could be. I did not really have much of a social life even then. I did not play with the other kids too much in school. I stayed to myself. Because I didn't feel I fit in. Other kids thought I was weird. Just like they do today. But that was before the internet. That was before computers. That was before technology. I was in the 80s, was the beginning of the technology we all know today. In my generation, the greatest thing happened in 1983. The creation of MTV. MTV was, at my age, was a total enthralling experience. Turning on channel 36 on our cable box and watching musicians playing guitars and singing songs and telling stories. Songs like Devo's Whip It. And then in the later years, Steve Perry's Oh Sherry. So of course, Dire Straits, Money for Nothing, and Your Chicks for Free, which was the introduction, opening song for MTV when it first went on the air. I remember the VJs, particularly I liked one named Martha Quinn. I don't know where she is now. Again, another face in the past that I only remember vaguely. I remember how much I wanted to be doing some of the same things that she did. To introduce videos. But TV wasn't really what I wanted to do, necessarily. I wanted to do radio. I used to listen to Dr. J on WSNG here in Torrington. AM 1610. On a little AM transistor radio I had in my loft in that old derelict barn. And he would play music of all kinds. Most of his music he liked to play was classical music. I remember when I was in New Hartford, I would listen to a radio station called WNEW. And I would listen to the Milkman's Matinee. Music from the 40s and 50s, mostly early 40s, 30s. Big band sound. That's what I would do. And then, of course, to this day, skip ahead from the 1980s to 1993. 10 years. My life changed. I graduated from high school. I went to community college. I went to Arkansas Enterprises for the Blind. I learned adaptive skills for independent living. I learned Braille. I learned about adaptive technology for the blind and how I could use this technology to help make my life better. At the time, my eyesight was a bit better. I did not have a cataract in my right eye at that time. I still am very glad to have learned those skills because I still use them to this day. Nowadays, even more so. My hearing is slowly disappearing. As it happens to a lot of my family, it's a congenital condition, as is my eye condition. I can't change either one. It just is. Yet, just like my predecessors, my contemporaries of my time, the new contemporaries of this time are using YouTube for the same reason that MTV was a big deal in my time. 2003, YouTube came on the scene 20 years later. And in 2003, all of a sudden, it was the new thing. Like MTV, except with one twist. Anybody could create their own show. When I got into YouTube, it was about 8 years later. My world was different then. I was a nobody. I'm still a nobody to this day. But the difference was YouTube gave me the opportunity to tell a story, to share, and to learn, and to grow. Like in that simple test piece you saw, my soul is the firmware for my brain, which is supported by a bag of blood, guts, and bone. My brain also uploads the firmware changes to my soul. That's how our souls grow and improve. We write our own updates, but still, what happens if some tragedy occurs that causes your brain to become corrupted? How can you update? How can you fix that? How can you reflash the brain when it will not accept any firmware downloads? Very interesting comparison, because in the computer field, many times if the computer gets stuck in a boot loop and you can't update the firmware, you just throw it away. Even if you have the ability to actually get control of the boot loop, the firmware is corrupted. And then you have to physically remove the chip and put it into an EEPROM programmer to reflash the firmware by removing the chip and placing it into this programming machine. We know that with modern computer chips, most of them are firmware or soldered to the board. So therefore, a question comes up. If the human brain becomes corrupt, how do you remove the brain to reflash it externally? I have no idea. I can only guess. But one of the most important things is that never mind what you might see on this channel sometimes. I'm still growing, and I'm still learning new things. And I've also learned that while I like being honest and factual and telling you the truth at all times, it doesn't seem people want that so much anymore. They want a story. They want a made-up fairy tale. A fairy tale which I cannot give you. And the question still comes up, would I really want to? Would I really want to give a fairy tale a falsehood when I know that deep down in my spirit I know better? Even though someone say it will drive ratings, it'll make you famous, it'll make your channel bigger if you start coming up with a bunch of poppycock. No pun intended. Just being honest here. I honestly don't think that is what we need anymore in this world. But just like with YouTube, just like MTV in the past, YouTube is a place of glamour and glitz. And stories. Oh yes, unboxing videos. And demos. And horrifically frightening pieces of video, which I don't know what to describe them as. I've certainly seen my share. I don't know how I can fit in this area. But you know what? There's two choices you have in life. You can either A, accept the fact is that you're just an old fart and you're not worth anything and go into the old folks' home. Or accept the fact is that you're an old fart, but you're still willing to learn and still learn to become a better person. I'm going to choose the latter and not the former, because the fact is the former leads to nothing but decay of the soul. Actually, it leads to decay of the mind. Once the soul is decayed too much, your mind cannot be reflashed with firmware updates. then slowly your body, which is your support system for your brain, starts to fail because it's not being maintained. You get fat, you become overweight, your mind becomes dull, your joints start to hurt, you don't do anything anymore, except you just talk about the old days when you're younger. I'm 50 years old, folks. I got crow's feet under my eyes. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up doing the things I love. If I was to become like Poppy, if, don't tell me all the backstory about Poppy. I've been reading it for days. Would it make me famous? Would I want to be that kind of famous? That's a great question, isn't it? But in this day and age, just as it was back in the time when I was a child, with glitz, glamour, MTV, stardom, all that stuff, it seems like they don't want to know the real person. Even the real persons themselves create channels of nothing more than a bunch of pomp and circumstance and bullshit stories. They live for fame. They live for it. But others, well, we're trying to live too. One day at a time. Doesn't make us perfect, but we are real. I'm real. My cat's real. The other cat's real. Alright, so is the third cat. We're all real. In fact, my one cat there is sticking his tail on the camera lens. Come over here. Come on. I also want to talk a little bit about what's been going on my channel for those of you who do not know or do not have a clear understanding of who some of these different people are. And I wanted to talk about them individually. But I don't want to upset anybody. I just wanted to talk about the stories as far as I understand it. The most important people on this channel you will see is Ruben, Beaver Time. I found the next Christian. We call him TNCC for short. People, Peace, or Pop. No relation to Poppy. She's not a subscriber on my channel. It would be interesting if she was, but she's not. These people in particular, oh yeah, the fake little me. These people have taken my channel in ways that I don't really know if I'm necessarily too comfortable with some of them, but because of some of their behaviors. But they have their own rights to speak their minds too. If you listen to them, you may get the wrong impression of me. That's why I'm talking to you about this stuff now. I am, as I said, 50 years old. I live alone with 3 cats. I live in a small apartment in Winston, Connecticut called the North American Snow Queen Palace. I am legally blind. I have a cataract in my right eye. I'm missing 2 teeth in my mouth. One was because it's split in half, and the pieces of it are still in my mouth even now. The other one I lost from an accident. Yes, folks, that is the true story of how that came to be, like that. But you know what? The most important thing I want you to come across and think about for a minute is this. Most people don't even know anything about me. And now I just gave you some new material that I hope you'll get you to understand. There's a lot more about me than meets the eye. I left Lemmy out of this because of one reason. And I will explain this very simply. Me and Lumi joined together officially. Our marriage was joined together by Mother Esna on May 1st, 2011. Lumi, Ann, Finistra, and myself are twin souls. We were created by the Divine Father and Mother God. She has served as my spirit guide, and I have served as her spirit guide. In her life on earth, in my life, she's done mine. But we have also been on earth simultaneously. And during those times we were on this earth, but simultaneously we had other individuals acting as our spirit guides. I can't remember them right now, at least not mine, but the individual did their darndest to do a good job. I can tell you that. The fact is, Lumi and I are deeply in love with each other. I've mentioned that before in the last video I did to you. And we are still together. Now, some people, particularly those in the rumor monger industry, would like to ask some questions. Do I love Lumi more than Dory? That's hard to say. I say it's hard to say because at this point, Lumi cannot actually separate as a separate physical entity from me. And if we were physically separate people, we could have done things together that at this point we cannot do. But that doesn't mean that I don't love Lumi. Do I love Dory? Yeah. Does Dory love me? I can't say. Because I'm not really sure. Sometimes I'm not sure if Dory loves me or not. I think she does. I know I love her. That's why when she left, and in late September, or was it? No, yeah, it was late September, I think. That was a major blow. But you know what? She's going to be coming back here today. She actually mentioned to me yesterday that she needs to come back because she has no place to go. I had no problem with that. When I told her up front, I said, why did you make the mistake of leaving in the first place? You had everything you needed. Well, I don't always think clearly. Well, I don't always think clearly either. But I would have stopped and realized that since I would have had a safe place to live, it would be better to stay with the people that you know are going to provide you with security and safety than to go out there and sabotage that and go out there and live in a place that's in foreclosure. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see Dory here again. I really kind of wish I could say if she's going to be doing more YouTube videos. I don't know. It's up to Dory. I hope so. But, you know the old saying, you never know. Alright guys, if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, gripes, kudos, you know what to do. The comment section is below. And do me a favor, all of you. I'd like to see more positive comments once in a while. But if I mean, I know that from what I have read in several news articles, look at the comment section on YouTube, there's more haters out there than people who give positive comments. positive comment or two once in a while wouldn't hurt you. You know as well as I do that it does help the people who create these videos to feel a little bit better about themselves. Unless you're a goth. If you're a black goth, the more negative comments you get make you feel more down and depressed, and then you make better videos in your eyes because they're all dark and somber. But you know what? I'm a white goth. That's a little different. A white goth doesn't necessarily want dark and somber. But we do like gothic architecture, and we do like some gothic stuff, but I like to see happier goth. Like a goth structure with a light, paint. Or a goth with a nice mahogany stain on it. Remember, my father was a woodworker, and for me, looking at things that are natural wood grain color is more exciting to me than looking at something that is basically just painted over. And goths love imposing structures. They love stone. They love iron. They love big things. Like the church in Notre Dame, or even the cloisters in New York. They love that kind of stuff. They go for it. I do too. Goth, that's just the way we are. Even white goths are like that. We love gothic structure. But I'm also a little bit of a Victorian person too. So if I had access to the kind of stuff I would need to have a wardrobe, you'd be seeing me wear a lot of bustles and a Victorian clothing instead of what I'm wearing now. Well, that's about it for now, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Okay?